I had just come back from a week-long trip, tired but happy to finally be home. All I wanted was a hot shower, maybe order some takeout and crash on my own bed. But the second I pulled into my driveway, I knew something was wrong. Music was blasting from the backyard. Smoke was rising from a grill I definitely didn't own. And laughter, lots of it, echoed through the neighborhood. I stepped out of my car, completely confused, only to find a full-blown BBQ party happening in my backyard. Tables were set up. Strangers were eating burgers. Kids I'd never seen before were running around with juice boxes. And right in the middle of it all stood Karen. Now, if you don't know Karen, she's the neighbor who's always had something to say about where you park, how you cut your grass, even how loud your wind chimes are. But this was a new level. I walked up to the fence and calmly asked what she thought she was doing. That's when she spun around, sunglasses on, drink in hand, and said, "Oh, you're back early." Early? From my own house. I told her this was private property and she had to leave. She smirked, sipped her drink, and said, "Actually, I have permission." Apparently, she thought my absence gave her the right to borrow my yard for the weekend. And when I told her to pack up and go, she did the unthinkable. She called 911. She told the dispatcher there was a hostile man threatening her and her guests on her property. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was standing there, shocked, still holding my luggage, trying to explain to the cops when they showed up. And you won't believe what happened next. The moment they arrived, everything changed, and not in the way you'd expect. Stick around, because this story is just getting started. So there I was, still in my travel clothes, suitcase by my side, while two cops stood in front of me, asking me to explain what was going on. I pointed to my house, my ID still in hand, and said, "I live here. I just got back. That woman is not supposed to be in my yard." But before I could finish, Karen cut in like she owned the place. "Officers, just showed up yelling, scaring the kids. I have permission to be here. He's not even supposed to be back until next week." That last part really got me. How did she know my schedule? How did she even know I was supposed to be gone longer? I hadn't told any neighbors, hadn't posted anything online. I started wondering if someone had been watching my house, or worse, if she had been inside. I tried to keep my cool while the officers went back and forth between us. One of them asked Karen whose permission she had. She hesitated. Then she said, "The owner said it was fine." I blinked. The owner, I said. She just gave me this smug look, like she knew something I didn't. Meanwhile, her guests kept partying. People were still flipping burgers. Kids were splashing in an inflatable pool I didn't own and someone had even set up a Bluetooth speaker blasting music like it was a summer festival. My head was spinning. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was starting to feel planned. The cops asked if I had proof that I lived there. I handed them my license and pointed to the mailbox with my name on it. Still, Karen wouldn't back down. She kept insisting I was making a scene, and that was the problem. The whole time she played the calm, concerned neighbor act. The kind of person who knows exactly how to twist the truth just enough to make herself look like the victim. And just when I thought this couldn't get any weirder, one of the officers said something that completely stopped me in my tracks. What he told me. It changed the entire vibe of the situation. The officer looked at me and said, "Sir, we've had reports from this address while you were away. Break-ins, suspicious activity. We were actually out here 2 days ago." My stomach dropped. Break-ins. That was the first I'd heard of it. I asked what kind of reports, and the officer mentioned someone claiming they had temporary rights to the property, and that there was an ongoing lease dispute. That's when it hit me. Karen had been laying the groundwork. She didn't just throw a last-minute BBQ. She had been plotting this. I told the officers flat out, I never rented my home, never gave anyone permission to be here, and absolutely did not lease it to Karen. They took notes, but I could tell they were trying to stay neutral. Karen, meanwhile, was standing off to the side on her phone, whispering to someone. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught the words lawyer, tenancy, and paperwork. What kind of paperwork could she possibly have? Then it got even more twisted. One of her friends, some guy I'd never seen, walked up to me with a weird confidence and said, "Hey man, she told us this place was part of a timeshare. You're just the maintenance guy, right?" I almost laughed, but I was too stunned. I walked around the side of the house and noticed my side gate lock had been cut clean through. That's how they got in. That inflatable pool, sitting right on top of my garden beds. My lawn chairs, missing. My backyard fire pit, disassembled and used as a grill stand. This wasn't just disrespect, it was invasion. I snapped a few photos while the officers talked in private. I was trying to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. And as I came back around to confront Karen again, I saw her walking toward the cops, waving a stack of printed documents. She was actually trying to prove she had some kind of legal claim to my home. I had no idea what she was holding, but the expression on the officer's face when he looked at it, yeah, that told me this was far from over. Karen handed the officer a stack of papers like it was her trump card. Her smile said, checkmate. I stood there, watching closely as he flipped through the pages. I couldn't see everything, but I did catch a fake-looking rental agreement, my address at the top, her name printed neatly, and what looked like a forged signature. My signature. My heart started racing. I stepped closer and said, "That's not real. I never signed anything. I don't even know where that document came from." The officer didn't say much, just asked me to stay calm while they verified things. But from the look on his face, I could tell he wasn't sure what to believe anymore. Karen kept up her act, throwing around phrases like property dispute, civil misunderstanding, and paper trail. Meanwhile, the party kept going like none of this was happening. People still lounging in my patio chairs, drinks in hand, music low but steady. One guy even had the nerve to wave at me while flipping a steak. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I walked through the backyard, narrating everything, my name, the date, the house number, the people on my property, and the broken lock. I filmed the fake lease Karen gave the police, her guests, the grill on top of my garden. I needed proof. I didn't know how deep this went, but it felt bigger than just a neighbor throwing a party. This felt planned, maybe even rehearsed. Then, things got even more tense. One of Karen's friends, clearly drunk, came up to me and said, "You really should leave, man. You're just making this worse for yourself." I couldn't believe it. On top of everything else, I was being treated like didn't belong here. The officers asked both of us to step aside so they could figure this out without escalating. But I knew the only thing escalating was my stress. I watched Karen chatting casually with another officer, laughing like they were old friends. I didn't know what kind of game she was playing, but I knew I wasn't going to lose my home over it. Then, one officer came back with a serious look. He asked me to follow him to the front yard because they had something to show me. And right then, I knew whatever was coming next was going to change everything. I followed the officer toward the front yard, heart pounding, mind racing. I was expecting maybe more questions or some kind of update. But when we turned the corner, I froze. Parked right out front, next to my driveway, was a moving truck. Not a small one either. A full-sized, professionally marked moving truck. And inside, my stuff. Furniture I hadn't even unpacked before my trip. Boxes with my name scrawled in Sharpie. Lamps, small appliances, even the TV I mounted in my bedroom. It was all loaded up, some of it already strapped down. The officer looked at me and asked, "You recognize this?" I didn't even know how to respond. My voice caught in my throat as I walked closer. One of the movers, wearing a uniform, gave me a polite nod and said, "We're almost done. Just waiting for the lady of the house to sign the final release." The asterisk lady of the house asterisk, Karen. I looked back toward the backyard, the fake party, the phony lease, and now asterisk this asterisk. She wasn't just hosting a barbecue. She was asterisk moving in asterisk, taking over, like she had planned this for weeks, maybe longer. And the worst part, the movers thought it was all legit. They had paperwork too, something with a signature that once again looked a little too much like mine. I turned to the officer, trying to stay composed, and said, "You have to stop this. This is theft. This is trespassing. She's stealing my life." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he got on the radio and requested backup. That's when I knew this wasn't just some neighbor dispute. This was something deeper, something possibly criminal. But Karen? She acted like none of it mattered. She came strolling around the corner with a clipboard in hand, smiled sweetly, and said, "I was just about to sign off. Everything's going smoothly now." I could barely contain myself. My home, my property, my personal belongings. She was trying to erase me like I never existed. And with the movers standing there, and police unsure who to believe, I realized this wasn't just about a party anymore. This was a takeover, and the worst part, she might actually pull it off. I stood there, staring at the moving truck filled with my things, while Karen hovered nearby with that smug look like she had already won. The officers were talking quietly off to the side, flipping through both her paperwork and mine. It felt like time was slowing down, and all I could think was, asterisk, how far was she really willing to go, asterisk? That's when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it, but I'm glad I did. It was a motion alert from my security camera app, one I forgot I had synced to cloud storage before I left. I opened it fast and scrolled through the saved clips. My hands were shaking. Then, boom, there it was. A full recording from 5 days earlier. Karen cutting the side gate lock with bolt cutters. Her and 2 other people hauling things out of my house. Clear as day, faces visible, time stamped, game over. I called one of the officers over and handed him my phone. "Watch this," I said. He did, and his entire posture changed. He stepped back, waved to his partner, and muttered something into his radio. Karen saw the shift immediately. Her confidence cracked. She rushed over, trying to say the video was edited and that it was taken out of context, but it was too late. Within minutes, backup arrived. One officer approached Karen, asked her to set the clipboard down, and began questioning her in a very different tone. The party noise finally started to fade as guests noticed the change in energy. Karen's face went pale when they told her she was being detained for questioning regarding unlawful entry, possession of stolen property, and potential forgery. The movers immediately stopped what they were doing. One even apologized to me, shocked that they'd been used in this mess. I started directing them on where to return my stuff, one box at a time. But just as I was starting to feel like I'd finally gotten control back, one of the officers came over and said something I never saw coming. "We ran her name. There's a flag on her from a neighboring state. You're not her first victim." Turns out, Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She'd done this before. Different house, different name, same exact playbook. And that's when it all clicked. This wasn't a one-time invasion. This was part of something much, much bigger. As the truth unraveled, officers began piecing together a pattern. Karen, whose real name turned out to be something completely different, had a record in 2 other states for pulling off nearly identical scams. She'd target people who were out of town, forge fake documents, and move in like she owned the place, sometimes even collecting fake rent from unknowing tenants. She wasn't just a bad neighbor. She was a professional con artist. With the security footage, the forged lease, and witness statements, the police had more than enough to press charges. She was taken into custody that evening, and the party she threw in my asterisk backyard, broke up real fast. Her guests scattered, some apologizing, others just embarrassed they were part of it. I spent the rest of that night going through my house, checking what was missing, what was damaged, and what, thankfully, was still intact. The moving company helped return all my stuff. They were actually super helpful once they realized they'd been caught in the middle of a scam. A few neighbors, the ones I'd never really spoken to before, came by the next day to check on me. Turns out, they'd always thought Karen was a little off, but no one expected this asterisk. Looking back, it's wild to think how quickly someone tried to take over my life, right under everyone's nose. It taught me a lot about trusting my gut, securing my property, and just how far someone will go when they think you're not paying attention. If I hadn't had that cloud camera, who knows how this could have ended. So yeah, always lock your gates, back up your footage, and maybe don't tell your nosy neighbor when you're going out of town. You never really know who's watching, or what their next move might be.